Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert Podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, welcome back to the Dirt and Vert Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And this episode will be a little different. We're going to keep it a little shorter just because we're going to make a special Christmas edition.
That's what he says. He says it's going to be shorter.
Yeah, I tell Matt all the time, we're going to keep this podcast under 2 hours.
So it may be under 2 hours, but
actually, I take that back. I tell him we're going to keep it under an hour and a half, and it always goes over an hour and a half. So that's the real truth.
So it's probably going to be about an hour and a half.
So, I hope everybody notices this beautiful hat that Matt is wearing.
We're festive.
Matt forgot to bring his Christmas festive hat, so he's actually wearing my tree topper. It fits perfect.
Fits good.
It's actually got a spring up here. So yeah.
Pretty top heavy. I've already lost it once.
Well, Matt, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to before we get into the entire episode. So one of the things that we are going to cover later, guys, is we both have a list of the top 12 tips, tricks, and useful or non-useful information that we've made. So we're going to share those and have a little fun, and then we'll have a little Christmas message at the very end. But for now, Matt, what have you been into?
How far we want to go back? You want to go back to when I was doing awful or when it started getting better?
Hey, this is your world. I'm just living in it.
Oh, man. So we can go back after the marathons. So I guess people who've been listening know that I had this great plan of running the Grand Slam of Tennessee marathons. Well, I ran 3 out of the 4, and the 4th one was supposed to be Memphis. And I said, no, I ain't doing it. So after the last one, which was Nashville, it went back to trails. Because trail running is, to me, much funner to run. We did Johnston Woods, and then Three Sisters. Three Sisters was good. Finished second place there in the 6 hour. And then we do a bunch of crazy stuff where it was just random. Panther Creek Challenge for Knoxville Track Club. It was good. Finished 9th. And then we went to Sewanee Slammer. If nobody's ever been over to Sewanee University and ran that perimeter loop, I recommend it. Yeah, it was actually really beautiful. I did that for like a last-second training run. It was a 20-miler.
Where's that at?
Sewanee University, over next to, it's on top of Monteagle Mountain. I'm like, I just need 20 miles. I prefer to do my longer runs in a race or an event. It's just funner to me. So I signed up for the Sewanee Slammer, went and ran it. Didn't want to like race it, just wanted to go like practice some nutrition and stuff. But that course was hard, harder than I thought for a training run. But it was a lot of rocks, single track, a lot of climbing. Yeah, so it was harder than I was expecting, but it was good. So I finished that one. And then we went on to Firewater, which you guys have heard a lot about. Firewater was my first official 50K back in 2020, and I've done it every year since. So this was my 5th year. Everything started out great. Mile 17, had some little issues, got those fixed, and then finished in my second fastest time ever there, which is 6 hours and something.
This Firewater?
Firewater, 9th overall. I think 5th male. And then
what is the overall goal with Firewater? I mean, I feel like this is like your nemesis with this race.
Well, the overall goal is to win, and the closest I came to that was 2 years ago, and I finished 3rd overall, and that was my fastest time at 5:27. The ultimate goal is to win, but it conquers me more than I conquer it. Like I posted on my Instagram, like I train out there. We train out there. A lot of us train out there. And it's not a very hard course. It's a lot of up and down. So, I mean, you're never getting into it like a fast, complete rhythm. But I don't know. Sometimes I fall apart out there. Maybe it's because I know the course and I'm like looking forward to these hard sections. And then everything else goes great. And then I get there and I'm like, it's not great.
You don't think it has anything to do with pacing?
I paced better this year.
Did you?
I did.
Let's hear this. Because I have not looked at your Strava.
Started out at 9:30. We kept at 9:30 for a long time.
How long is a long time, Mr. Williams?
I don't know, 17.
Really?
No, we kept it good.
I am impressed with that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I don't know. We had a few bad
ones. So did you crash?
I had a cramp. Like, after I left Sinking Creek Aid Station, I started climbing up there. It's not a hard climb, but I had this cramp, the same cramp I had at Sewanee Slammer, right there in my quad, and it was awful. I only threw up like once or twice. That's not an issue. That's going to happen for me. But I had this cramp that it took me probably 30 minutes to get over. Right in my quad. Right in it. Right next to the knee. And then after that, I got back to running. Like, kept running after that. So I figured I got it back. But I think it's just a little less sodium. So I took a few more. That's something I've been struggling with is the salt. I think I have it figured out. And then it falls. So, but I finished in the second fastest time there this year.
Well, congrats on that.
Thank you. And then the week after that, so I did 3 races in a row. That's what I like to do. I did 3 races in a row, Sewanee Slammer, Firewater 50K, and then I went up to Norris Dam and did the 15-miler. And surprisingly, my legs felt great. No cramping that time. But we did that trick that some of you guys have heard, where I added more sodium to my Roctane. Instead of having just the 320 that comes in a normal scoop or a normal serving, I added salt tablets to it. 2 salt tablets extra. And then I had salt tablets with me.
I assume that was on your 12 useful tips list, so I didn't put it on mine.
It's not, but it's a very useful tip. Sodium is a useful tip, but so I added that to it, and I also had salt tablets with me, which I took my normal amount of salt tablets anyway, but I didn't cramp any, and I finished 4th overall there. So 3 races in a row. The last one was the best one. So what else did I do after that?
I did Run Loco.
Yeah, my marathon, or half marathons. I did back-to-back half marathons. I did Run Loco in Loudon, which was my 4th year doing it. Finished 4th place overall there. And then we go to this thing called the Dirty South half marathons.
That's a fun course.
I never paid attention to any of the description. Thought trail half marathon, it's going to be great doing them back to back, get a marathon in that week. So I get there and I asked Josh Brady, which he said he runs there a lot. I said, Josh, how's the course? How much elevation am I looking at? My legs are already gone from Run Loco.
It's got some elevation.
And he goes, Matt, you got a couple rolling hills. By the time you get up, you're going back down. You're looking at maybe 1,000 feet. Okay, great. In the first 2 miles, I had 600. And my legs were like, what are you doing? So we get to that 10K part where there's a 10K as well. And it says split right from the 10K. And I'm sitting there, I'm really contemplating. If you see the picture that Tony tagged me in on Facebook, I'm seriously contemplating just going right for the 10K. I'm like, my legs are gone. Like the hamstrings are so tight. But I didn't. I went straight and I kept going for that half marathon. And I finished it.
Well, good.
In 34th overall, 2 hours and 9 minutes. 1,800 foot of climbing, not that barely 1,000 that Josh told me. So
well, that's awesome.
And then the next one is Lookout 18 miles. I'm going back for it.
Yeah, I think me and Mary will be there to cheer some people on. I think you and Lauren. I'm sure she's probably got some other runners in it too.
Well, I saw Nick Bianchini has signed up for it as well. So
yeah, I ran into Nick at Fall Creek Falls. He was pacing.
Was he? Cool. Haven't saw him since check. It'd be good to run with him.
Yeah, he was pacing.
I think Kyle came and paced him for Pinhoti, right?
He did. So he was paying it back. It's all about the community.
That's what it's about.
That's right. And girls, I guess I should say. All right. So what's next year? You got anything big?
Big.
Go through your whole list.
No, it's going to be 100 miles sometime. I don't know which one.
Are you picking 100 mile based on the terrain or the buckle?
Usually it's the buckle, but I want to do No Business because that's a Tennessee race, Tennessee, Kentucky. So I want to do it. But then I also want to go back to Mad and LC. I like Mad backyard because I usually do just one straight backyard a year. And then, like another last person standing, which would be either LC or mid-state.
Or both.
No business is on there. And you're going back, so ride it together.
Hey, I like that. Yeah, I'm not even going to. I've signed up for way too much stuff, so we need to foot the hill. We're going to be in trouble. Well, that's pretty good. So with all of those races, how is training? What are you doing? Are you just racing as you're training?
Pretty much just became a race my way into shape. Realistically, what I set up for was for next year, for LC and for LC's got a lot of elevation, so I've done a lot of elevation courses. Swanee Slammer evidently had a lot of elevation that I didn't know about. Firewater has a decent amount. Dirty South, back-to-back. I did those two specifically for Lookout. But Lookout also has a lot of elevation. So I think all of that's going to pay off for LC in February. That's the goal.
If you don't get injured.
Oh, everything's great.
That's the only hard part. Like that's what I struggled with whenever I did all those races so close, was just I should have ran some easy and only raced some, but I raced.
Well, I didn't race Swanee Slammer. That wasn't like I was there. It was an event, but I wasn't racing it. Dirty South Half Marathon, I wasn't racing it because I knew I couldn't race it. I mean, I tried to go out for a decent pace, but that wasn't there. So that was a training run. Swanee Slammer is a training run. The 5Ks in between were just speed works. So like, they may be a lot of races back to back to back, but they weren't like, I wasn't out there racing trying to podium those, even though some of them, were pretty good finishes, but those were training runs. And I was going to do those training runs by myself or at an event. I'd much rather go do it and hang out with people. That's how I like to do my longer training runs. Hopefully, everything's held together so far. Which after Lookout next week or this weekend, I am going to take a whole week off. A whole week. I got stuff to do at the house. I'm taking a whole week off. A whole week.
So have you been like tapering at all for these races, or have you really
I
training enough to taper?
I tapered. This week is just 3-mile runs.
Okay.
So, and then after those back-to-backs, it was just light runs. So it's been a taper ever since.
Was your race last weekend?
Yeah.
Well, that's not really much of a taper.
Well, not last. Well, was it this last weekend? It was
covering.
Yeah, it's a recovery taper. Oh, no, it was 2 weeks ago. It wasn't this weekend. It was 2 weeks ago. But
I just want to say this is not training advice.
This is what I like to do. This is for me.
I mean, hey, that's there's a lot of fun in just racing, and if you're doing small races and they're not like
it's
ultra after
like,
ultra, you're doing
at Norris Dam there was a 50K option as well. I knew that me doing a 20-miler, a 50K, and then a 50K all in a row would not have been a wise decision, because the second half of that 50K at Norris Dam would have been injuries could have happened. It's a technical course anyway. You can't see nothing you're running on. So I knew that I had to do something light. And so that's why I did that. It was I tapered, or I recovered that week, and then I went out for a long run. And that's just what it was. Just a long run that's finished 4th overall. So it was a good long run.
Love it.
And my watch died because I didn't charge it. So I had no clue what my pace was. I didn't know how long I was running. And weirdly enough, that was one of the best feeling races that I had, because I didn't know my pace. I didn't know anything. I'm asking Ian, what mile we at? I had no clue what mile we were at. He's like, oh, you're at this mile. I'm like, okay. 30 minutes later, I'm like, hey, what mile we at? And it actually, when I got done, I felt, because, a lot of times you're looking at your watch, you're like, I'm a mile this, or your pace alert goes off, and you're like, man, I'm running too fast, or I'm running too slow. So with me not having any of that, I just ran.
It's funny you say that, because like there's still runners who run without a watch.
Yeah.
Wasn't Ken one of those? Z-Mock?
I don't remember.
But I think that's I think that takes some stress away, like just your pacing and your rate. It keeps you from worrying about everything.
Yeah, because at that point, once my watch died 2 miles in, I'm like, well, now I'm just running on feel. I wasn't worried about what my heart rate was, because I didn't know. I wasn't worried about, how fast I was going. I didn't know. I just knew every so often I would ask what mile we were at, because I wanted to how much can I push towards the end. And then once we got like 2 miles out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to pick it up. But I didn't know how fast I was running. So I could have had a bunch of PRs in there and I didn't even know it.
You're going to have to let me know what 100 you decide to do. I want to hear this.
Well, the first one's going to be mad. I'm going to get 100 there.
Well, I mean,
so
like 100 mile, like 100 miler.
I know.
I mean, mad is, you can get 100 miles there, but I want to know what, like, true 100.
Well, I say I'm going to get it that bad. That's high hopes and wishes. Anything can go wrong.
I was going to say, in ultra running, anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
12 miles will be done.
Let's hope for at least 50.
Hope not. I'm just focused on, I'm back to at least running now, but I'm only running like 45 minutes at a time. I get my longest run this weekend. I get to run an hour.
Whoa.
Yes.
Are you going to do that on a treadmill or?
No, I'm on road this week. So I ran every day so far this week, at least 45 minutes. Well, I say at least. Only 45 minutes, but I ran 45 minutes every day this week. And one thing I've already noticed is like my heart rate is terrible. So I got a little ways to go, but I'm running like a 8:30 pace and my heart rate's sitting at like 150. Before the injury, I was running like a 7-ish and my heart rate was at 150. So I got a little ways to go, but I've also not ran since Pinhoti. So
yeah,
it'll get there.
Good recovery time, right?
My foot's still sore when I turn it out some. We're working through that. Me and Mary have been doing yoga every night so far this, last week or so. And I've been doing it a little bit, but now we've started doing it every night and then trying to strength train a few days a week. So I'm at least to the point now where I can do like single leg lunges with a barbell and et cetera. So I'm getting there.
Good.
The full flexion still hurts when I lift my foot all the way up or down. But interesting enough, the push off does not hurt at all. So when I run, I have no pain.
Well, that's good.
So that's a plus. I'm not testing it on a trail anytime soon, though. No, I'm not going to take the opportunity. So if I roll it right now, it would be terrible. So I'm just trying to like focus on that. Well, and then obviously seeing my chiropractor once a week. But I've got to get it healthy because I'm doing the 100 miler at the Pistol in March. That is my goal. And I'm hoping I can get in shape enough to hit the goal I originally wanted for Yeti. So we'll see. I don't know at this point, but I'll give it a hell trying.
Well, I mean, that's what, March. So, I mean, you got a few more, another month of recovery, and then you should be able to up the training pretty good. If everything goes well.
That's right. My hope is that Stamen is healed and I am healed and Stamen can come out and pace me. So that's our goal. Like I'm hoping he gets there.
He's on his way.
Yeah, hopefully he gets released in Jan or Feb, but he's been for a little while with that injury.
He definitely has. Yeah.
He's handled it with grace. I'll give him that.
Well, now he's a Zwift rider, so
yeah, he's a hell of a Zwift rider too.
Well, he's always posting like, man, he's doing 60 miles.
I asked him the other day, how many did you ride? I think he said it was like a 200K or something. I'm like, my gosh. So let's jump into our 12 tips and tricks, Matt. So what I was thinking we could do, obviously we don't talk about any of this, guys, before we do the podcast. This is all like impromptu. So
it sure is.
I literally found that hat about 5 minutes before we started the podcast.
I'm not sure exactly how long this hat's going to last. It's got some top metal up here.
You're also wearing a ball cap under it.
I am.
I think you could probably shed the hat at this point if you need to, sir.
We'll see how long I can do.
But yeah, let's hear your first tip, and then we'll go over to my first tip, and we'll just go through. So we're going to do 12 a piece. So there might be some that's overlapping here, but this is just kind of for fun. And if you guys hear this and you can think of something that you want to offer, please just respond in the comments when we post this podcast and offer us your tips, and we may mention those in the next podcast with whoever mentions it.
My first tip is something that at the beginning of the year I wasn't doing. I was trying to force it, and because I set a goal, and that was enjoy your training. So when I set out for those marathons, that's what I wanted to do, and I had a good training block for it. But to a point, I wasn't enjoying it because I wasn't alternating between trails and road. It was just road, and it was hard. Like, after a while, I'm like, I just really want to just do this. And so my first tip is enjoy your training. And this is for me is keep variety in your training and the events you do. Some people just want to do just road. Some people just want to do trail. For me to enjoy it, I want to do both. And that also goes for your training. For me, my training is I want to do both. I want to go for a road run one day. I want to go for a trail run one day. And it just makes it more fun and more enjoyable. Because some days, like when you're doing for 6 weeks of nothing but road, and it's just constantly just on the road or the greenway, you're like, for me, it wasn't as fun. And, a lot of us do this for fun and enjoyment and for, an escape. So that was my number one. Enjoy your training and keep variety in it.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Find joy in what you do.
Yeah.
If you can't find joy, then, it's going to be hard to maintain that.
It is.
I like that.
And it was hard for a while.
So my very first tip or trick or non-useful information for whoever already knows this is, when you're training, run your easy runs and your recovery runs easy. The whole point of the easy run and the recovery run is so that you can push hard on the days that you're actually supposed to push hard. So when you're doing the hill intervals or you're doing the speed work, you want to be at full recovery. So if you're running your easy run at 160 or 70 heart rate, that's not easy. Slow it down, actually do your easy runs. That's the one thing you can do to help yourself the most is actually run your easy runs in the zone you're supposed to, because you're building that aerobic base. And when you do that, it helps you so much. And on the days that you really need to push hard, you can.
Number 2 for me is consistency. I would say, have a plan. If you have a coach, follow the coach's plan. But for a lot of people, it is hard. And because sometimes it's even hard for me. And when I get off work, I'll sit in my truck maybe 10 minutes trying to talk myself into running or out of running. But you also got to know, are you really just tired? Or is your body really telling you, hey, dude, you really need to take a break. Take some time off. Some days are going to be hard. Some days you're going to be able to just go out there and just enjoy it. You're like, man, this is the greatest run I've ever done. But you got to know that the more work you put in, the more time that you train, and you're recovering while you're doing that, it's going to pay off. So just get out there, be consistent with your training, put in the work.
I knew we would have some things similar. I didn't know that we would have some similar things as the same number. My number 2 is very similar. If you want to improve as a runner, the single most important thing you can do is consistency and volume. I can't tell you how many messages I get about diet or cold plunge or yoga or strength training. Guys, none of that helps running unless you're running.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like there's no way to bypass that. You need volume and you need consistency. And the only way you get volume is going back to number 1, which is run your easy runs easy and your recovery runs easy. That is the whole point. If you're running super fast, trying to just catch up miles, all you're going to do is hurt yourself and hurt the volume and consistency that you're trying to do, because you're going to get hurt. So our number 2s are the same, almost the same, Matt.
Yeah. Gotta be consistent if you want to be able to run. My number 3 is you gotta be prepared for the conditions. So say you get off work or whatever, and you'll go try to do your training run, and you get out there and it's freezing cold, and you didn't bring a jacket, you didn't bring gloves. How easy is it going to be for you to say, I'm not doing this today, and go home? It's too cold for me to do that. So you got to be prepared for the conditions. Sauna training for me is a big one that helps me during the summer. We live in Tennessee. It's humid. It's hot. My wife got me a sauna for, I don't know what she got it for me for, but I started using it, and I think it helps during the heat. Put a lot of time into it. And then when it's cold, It's cold now. We got to have gloves. We've got to have, warm stuff to do our training in. So you got to be prepared for those. On a race day, you got to be prepared for those. Hot hands are great when you're running slow backyards. Have hot hands with you. So my number 3 is you got to be prepared for the conditions that you're going to train in or race in.
Good advice. Always over prepare. My number 3 is all about chafing. So I love me some salty britches. I use it on all of my races and my long runs, but my little useful tip here is on all of my short runs, I do not use salty britches because I run at lunch and then I go back to work. Sometimes I get to shower, sometimes I don't, because if I don't, that means I'm running again later when I'm doing a 2 a day. So I actually go to the Dollar Tree and buy cocoa butter Vaseline, and that's what I use on all of my short runs. Anything it's like 2 or 3 hours or less, I use that. And then I use salty britches for the longer runs because salty britches does not rub off very easily.
No, it stays.
The Vaseline is plenty for 2 to 3 hours. And, you can get the cocoa butter Vaseline at the Dollar Tree for $1. So good.
I'd agree with that. But I use salty on everything. My number 4 is your daily nutrition. Supplements. You got to get your protein in. Majority of people do not eat enough protein. Me and you, we do protein shakes. We do a lot of extra protein. And creatine. Creatine is one of the most well-studied supplements in history. Everybody knows creatine is great. And now the new studies are coming out. Endurance runners, it's great for endurance runners. So I think 9 milligrams or 9 grams, whatever it is, of creatine a day, as well as collagen. We're breaking down our tendons. We're doing all that stuff. So I take collagen as well. And then electrolytes. Every morning, it's 1,000 milligrams of sodium. All these 3 I put together, and I drink those every morning. Because as much as we run, a lot of this stuff just goes out of us. So if we're not supplementing it, we're not getting enough. Not getting enough of some of this stuff can cause injuries. We don't want injuries. We want to keep running. So mine is daily nutrition as supplements, protein, creatine, collagen, and electrolytes. And then there's 1,000 other things you can take, but I didn't mention all those.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. My goal is like 200 grams of protein a day. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes I'm 175, sometimes I'm 225.
Yep.
But, there was a study at one point where they were saying you couldn't really consume or you couldn't really digest more than like 25 or 30 grams an hour, but that's actually not true. They've disproven that.
Yeah.
And the ideal, me and Mary literally just watched a podcast on this, but the ideal, protein intake is like 1.6 grams per kilo to like 2.4 or 5 grams per kilo. So, it's still for your body weight. So you can take quite a bit. I think they said that the benefits diminish a little bit after like 2 grams per kilo, but there's still benefits in doing so. So
yeah,
that's, and, a useful tip there is like when I start my morning, those Kodiak blueberry muffin, that's 12 grams protein. I actually pour Fairlife milk into that, and then I pour a scoop of collagen into that and mix it up, and I have like 35 grams of protein to start my day right there with breakfast. So when you open the cupboard to my kitchen, there's nothing but like Kodiak muffins in there. Mary keeps me stocked up
on protein bars and all crazy stuff. I got a whole on the pantry one side for 3 shelves is nothing but my supplements.
Yeah, if there's any one thing you can do for your food intake, focus on protein in the beginning. If it's too complicated, just focus on protein, track your protein, and try to hit, at least 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's an easy way to track it. Try to at least do that, especially if you're working out hard, because that helps you so much with recovery and muscle growth.
Like even if I'm not eating like a protein like meal, I try to add like a protein bar or something to it to make sure that you're getting some protein. Because, it's so easy if you're just going out for a snack not to get protein in with it. But if you, deliberately set aside like, hey, I want to eat protein, even if it's 10 grams, 12 grams, that adds up over the whole day. That's one thing that makes it easier for me is I have protein bars constantly with me. That and the collagen. Collagen's not like the greatest protein, but it's good for what we need it for.
Well, and I'll say this, and then I'll jump into we're on number 4. I'll jump to my number 4, but I will say, like, another important thing with protein. After a workout,
Yeah.
you need to take protein within the first hour.
Yep.
And, they say liquid form with some carbohydrates is the best because you want to replenish your carbs and you want to replenish the protein. So the quicker, the better. If you're doing a really long run and you're going to drive 1 or 2 hours to get to that long run, take something with you.
Yeah.
So that you can take it. All you're doing is feeding your muscles and feeding your body so that you can recover quicker.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So when you feed carbs and you feed protein after, you're speeding up your recovery. You're helping build that back. So taking 200 grams of protein, 150 grams of protein is great, but timing matters.
Yeah.
Do it after a workout for sure. Be prepared for that.
Yep.
All right. My number 4 is a little bit with you, but not so much as the same, but experiment with your fueling. That's mine. I think that's super important. Your long runs are really the only way that you can truly do this. You got to find what works for you. And, you may have to do several long runs to figure out what your fueling strategy is. So you can mix and match. You can figure out what works, whether that's gels, or that's candy and some other types of carbs. But you really need to figure this out. And you need to figure out how much you can take per hour. That's super important. Everybody's body's a little different. Some people can take up to 120 carbs per hour or 120 grams per hour of carbs, but others can only do, 80 or 90. And it all depends upon your makeup and how hard you're running. So, that's the thing is start using it how you would in a race so that you can find out if you're going to have GI issues or not. Because if you start having GI issues in your training run, then that's not the right fueling strategy for you. And the only way you can figure this out is doing your long runs.
Well, that's on my list as well. Just not as high as up as yours, but it's on there.
Well, mine are not in order.
Mine aren't either.
Mine are not in order of, this is my number 1.
Yeah. So you just mentioned salty britches. That is my number 5. Is you gotta be proactive when you're racing long races. We have a good friend named Emmanuel who is not proactive in salty britches.
He is now.
He's not been for a long time.
He is now. He's learned.
But salty britches apply early, and then you got a while until you got to apply often. Because like David said, it doesn't just wash off. It stays, which is good for us because, with all the sweat and all the salt that builds up in areas, salty britches somehow prevents that from actually becoming an issue. So that is one of my biggest ones. Also, don't forget your armpits. I do that a lot. Forget the armpits. And you're about 17 miles in, you're like, why's my armpit burning so bad? It's because you forgot to put it on your armpits. But my number 5 is salty britches or whatever anti-chafing that you choose. Because there's nothing worse than getting in the shower the next day after a race and then being surprised by something that just burns because you got a chafe spot that you did not know about. Salty britches, put it everywhere.
Yeah, and everybody's a little different. I don't normally have to put it on my armpits until like really late in an 80 or 100 mile race. Usually around 80 or 90 when I'm slowing down. That's when I see the chafing. But I have to put it between my toes.
I put it on my toes.
If I don't put it between my toes, I usually end up with a blister. So that has been the one saving grace. And obviously we put it in all the places that we won't talk about on this podcast.
All the places. Yeah. So I put it everywhere. It goes everywhere and it works.
All right. Number 5 was actually what I said on the Real Health podcast the other day. Don't do it alone. You want to make this fun. So when you're training, when you're running, find a community, find a group, find people that you can do it with. And even if you don't get to run together with them a lot, just having a group to share it with can mean all the difference in the world. You don't have to run together every weekend or every day, but start a messaging group. talk to each other, hold each other accountable, and have fun with it. Share crazy pictures. And, we have a group chat, which I'm the worst at of keeping up with this thing. But when I do finally read every comment on there, I try to respond. But like, we have a messenger group chat for the Nobody Cares Run Faster team. And everybody shares on there every day, and it's fun, and it's cool to see it. And I don't share every day, and I can't hardly keep up with it every day because, my work is crazy. But when I do read it, it makes me laugh, and I love it. And this team is amazing. And it's that, guys, is where it's at. Find your community, find your family. It doesn't have to be a race team. It can just be a team, period, or a community, or a couple of people you run with. And I promise you one thing, if you find a group that you have fun with, that group's going to grow.
Yep.
It will continue to grow, and you'll have something really special. But find someone to do it with.
That was your number 5?
That was number 5. So wait a minute, you losing?
No, because your last 2 is on my list as well. So we're going to have to cover these again in just a few moments. Yeah, because that is very true. My number 6 is recovery. Like I stated earlier, I like to do a lot of races or events back to back to back. So you have to recover during those times, or the next one's not going to be as fun. So I use a lot of compression boots. I don't have the Normatex, but I have compression boots, and I use them a lot. Rehydration. After your hard training runs or events, you have to rehydrate. If you don't rehydrate during and after, then you're just putting yourself in a negative for the next day that you're going to train. Some other things that I use are massage guns, and I have a cupping, a little electric cupping, not the real cupping. I don't have that, but I use those a lot, and they work. And then you got to get sleep. If you're not sleeping after some of these long, hard events, these 100-milers, these 50-milers, these 60Ks or whatever, 100Ks, if you're not sleeping after that, you're setting yourself back. So when you go back out the next week to try to recover and try to run, you're going to feel like crap. You got to sleep. That's something that I've tried to work on. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's hard to get, to bed at nighttime to get extra sleep. But recovery is my number 6.
It's also hard when you decide to do a 2.5-hour podcast every Wednesday. I try to keep it to an hour and a half, but you're the one that keeps going.
Well, we're already at 41 minutes, and we're only on number 6, and we got questions.
All right. My number 6, your training should mirror your race. So if you're training for, and I say this only if you're trying to PR a race. If you're just running a race for fun, then that's a different story. But if you're trying to PR a race, it's kind of like Yeti 50. That was I wanted to PR my 50-miler, which I did. But I ran every day on the exact same terrain that the Yeti 50 was going to be ran on. And, that to me makes such a difference. I spent so much time on a crushed gravel course trying to get ready for this course with similar elevation. And that's the thing. If you're going to try to push for a PR, whether it's a road marathon or a trail ultra or a rails to trail, train on that terrain. You don't have to do every day on it. And, that's the thing. It's like on your recovery runs, go do what you want to do. Go have fun. Go run on a trail. Take it easy. But on your runs that matter, like the long runs, especially the long runs, the speed runs, do that stuff on similar terrain. But you can do your recovery runs on, something else that you want to. But it makes all the difference in the world so that when you walk in on race morning, you feel confident in what you've been training, where you've been training, and you are confident in yourself to be ready to perform.
That was my number 14. My extra 2, just in case, but that was exactly what I had.
Guys, we're going to be here for 3 hours. His list is 28. I'm just going to shut him up.
14.
Stop.
14 was the last one. I added 2 extra just to make sure that,
What have you been doing, typing since we've been in here?
No, those were extra earlier. But yeah, I agree with that. If you're going to go do a mountain race and you don't ever train on a mountain where you're climbing with a lot of elevation, it's not going to work out for you once you get there. And you're going to, you may finish it, but you're either going to be miserable or you're not going to finish in the time that you were expecting. So definitely training on the type of environment that you're going to be racing on. My number 7 is strength training. You got to do some kind of strength training. I mean, even if it's, maybe 1 or 2 times a week, 15 to 30 minutes at a time, but you got to do something. If you just do nothing but run, you're going to break yourself down. I mean, you need muscle to climb. You need muscle to push off. You need to do some kind of strength training. I mean, I do just a little bit of work every day, just because once I get off work, I've only got a limited amount of time before I got to get home to the family, and I want to use some of that for running. So strength training is my number 7.
Okay. So my number 7 is, as you get to learn to push harder and harder, it's important to know your electrolyte balance. So experiment until you get it dialed in. And that took me a long time, like to the point that I never really got it dialed in. So I finally just actually went and bought a device that measures mine. So, if you can't get it dialed in, either get a device, there's several out there on the market, or just go get a sweat test. That's such a game changer to know how much salt and potassium you're losing to be able to replenish that on the hour, every hour. You'll see a difference in, your performance, especially around muscle fatigue and cramping, because if you're not keeping those electrolytes in balance, you're going to get dehydrated super quick. Yeah. You drink all the water in the world, but if you're not replacing those electrolytes, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've been really trying hard to do better at. I never could, even in Yeti 50, I cramped right at like mile 47 in my calf, but I just kind of kept running. I had 3 miles left. It wasn't a bad cramp, but I could feel it coming on. And I got a device later on after Yeti 50 and then started measuring. And I mean, when I'm pushing really hard, I'm losing almost 1,500 milligrams of sodium per hour. And I was not taking that in. So that was what happened. So that is my number 7.
I'd agree with that. Something that I have really got to work on for 2025.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Think about it. You're going to spend $300-$400 on a 100-mile race.
Yeah.
You go spend a couple $100 on a device or a sweat test so that you can truly know. I mean, because that's going to pay for itself, race over race over race.
Well, I've already mentioned this once, but H-Drop is on my Christmas list. So I've actually sent that to the wife and the mother-in-law. So I don't think they're going to get it for me. But if anybody else wants to, or if H-Drop wants to send us all one.
You want to put your address on here too? You might get more than that.
You can DM me for that.
Get some hate.
Yeah, there's no telling what we might get.
Your advice was terrible.
Yeah. Whole letter of how awful we were. But no, I agree with that, because for a long time I thought I had it figured out. But over 2024, I did not have it figured out. And it did not work for, I would say, 90% of my races. I had some kind of cramp, except for the last few. So we're going in the right direction. But yeah, I agree. And this, you've already mentioned this, but my number 8 is find a good running group or a running partner when you can, because a lot of us have different schedules. So we've got different training times. I mean, you can't always get somebody to come run with you. You don't always need somebody to come run with you, because in races, you're going to be alone. So you've also got to figure out how to push, when you're by yourself. But sometimes when you're running with people and you're not having the greatest day, or you're not feeling like you need to run or you want to run, having somebody there with you makes it just a little funner. Maybe that's why I like to do races every, few weeks or every weekend, because I get to go run with somebody. But like you said earlier, find a good running group, find somebody that you can train with. I mean, we've trained a lot together. Me and Mike's trained a lot together. Me and David Kyle, according to my Strava, is my number 1 training partner for 2024. But I think that makes a world of a difference when you have somebody there with you when you're going out and doing a 20-mile run or something like that. It just makes it more enjoyable. You get to push harder. Find a good running group or partner is my number 8.
I agree with that. I'm pretty fortunate in the fact that me and Mary do a lot of our long runs together.
Yeah.
So, that helps a lot. But definitely on your long runs, if if you feel like they're really hard and you can't do them, find someone to run with. It helps take some of the monotony and pain away, and you might actually slow down and run your long run and have fun and talk to people.
Find you a David Kyle, because I know he will talk to you enough to where you're running and listening, and that's all you're thinking about, just running and listening.
Yeah, you could do a long run with David Kyle and David Dye, and you would be good to go, because you would be laughing the whole
time. Dude, you'd be nothing but stories, just one after another, and your long run would be over before you even know it.
What number are we on? We're on number 8?
Yeah, you're number 8.
Number 8. All right. This one's about race week. Hydration is key leading up to the race. Drink plenty of water that week, and especially electrolytes. I personally alternate water and electrolytes that whole week. I drink a bottle of water, I drink a bottle of electrolytes, go back and forth, and I shoot for 128 ounces a day. That's the goal. I don't always hit it. I try really hard, but that is super important when you're going into a big race, especially in the summer or hot weather, spring, because the last thing you want to do is start a race not fully hydrated, because you're just playing catch up the whole time, and that doesn't work. And that's where you're going to start cramping. That's where things are not going to go right. And when your electrolyte balance gets thrown off, you're just thrown off, period.
I agree with that. I usually start on Wednesdays, and I start adding salt. 1,000 extra here, next day 1,000 extra here, and it's alternating water, salt, because like you said, you do not want to go into a race dehydrated, and that's something I've also changed. So I started drinking, it's a brand called Harlow. It's got creatine, collagen, and 1,000 milligrams of sodium per serving. So I think I told you this a couple weeks ago. I started drinking that right before my races. And I think, cross your fingers, that it has helped me, because I'm taking such a large amount right before I start racing. Used to, I was drinking a Roctane, and it has 320, has some carbs in it, has beta-alanine, but I don't think it had enough sodium to help me at the beginning of the race, so I was getting behind already. But for Norris Dam, for Run Loco, and the half, I did all that before, and I haven't cramped since. So I agree with your statement.
I have a whole bag. You're gonna laugh at this. I have a whole bag. It's like, I don't know, 1,000 serving pink Himalayan salt macro, and it's each quarter tablespoon is 500 milligrams of sodium. So the week of the race, I actually take, this is my little trick, guys. It's super cheap, because that's also part of it. What we do can get expensive.
And get expensive. It's very expensive.
So I actually just buy some flavored water flavoring. I love the red Kool-Aid. I also love, there's one called coconut lime, just at Walmart, but I'll put a couple squirts in my water bottle, and I put it's either quarter or half, I can't remember, and it's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, and it also has other trace minerals in it, but I really focus on the sodium. That whole bag cost me like $20, and I've had it for a year, and I still have half the bag left.
I mean, that works.
Yeah, that's also what I take. So if I don't have LMNT, I take that, and I'll put it in my little Scoopy bags and have my bags ready.
A lot of the supplements now have just straight pink Himalayan salt. So
I can't remember the brand, but this stuff's awesome. So
did you get it at Costco or Sam's Club?
I ordered it online from some supplement company. I don't remember. Hell, it might have been Amazon. Who knows?
No telling what you're actually. Yeah, I agree.
My turn or your turn?
It's my turn. Number 9 is know your gear. Test it in your training runs. If you buy new shoes, David, don't take them to the race and run in them the day of your race. It happens.
I can hear Mary now. Mary is sitting in her car, shaking her head, saying like, I told him.
Get your shoes out. Wear your shoes before your race. Headlamps. Know how bright your headlamps are. Know if you got a high beam or if you got a low beam. Know what kind of clothing to wear. If you're going to wear it during the hot times, you're going to wear it during cold. Know that when you put a jacket on, you're actually going to be warm when it's cold. What kind of hydration pack do you have? You just bought one and you haven't tried it out, and you get out there and you're like, what kind of functions does this have? Does it have this pocket, that pocket? Socks. I tried this during the run. I got some Injinji socks, toe socks. I never had toe socks. I wore them one time, had blisters like crazy. Good thing I didn't try that during the race. So I do not wear toe socks no more because they make me have blisters. I'm not a fan. But you got to know what kind of gear you have. We train all the time. Wear it. If it's a 5-mile run, try a new pack out. It's 5 miles. It's not going to hurt you. New socks. Don't try them on race day. Lamps. Don't just go to Walmart and buy one thinking that it's going to work, or go to REI or wherever. Try it out. Do a night run. Clothing. I wear in Jinji or Janji compression shorts. My favorite things ever. I tried them out before we did Vol State. I didn't just wear them. So you got to know your gear, test it, make sure it works, because there's a lot of stuff that you buy that doesn't work. So that's my number 9.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Janji. I
Yeah.
love their gear.
Yep.
I've used their gear for years.
Yep.
Some of the stuff back in the day wasn't the prettiest, but it was still effective, and now it's awesome.
I think those compression shorts that I have got thousands of miles on them. I mean, all of All State plus 99% of races I've done after that, I've wore them shorts.
It's awesome.
So they do good. Send me some more, Janji.
And I will say, on the headlamp piece, I want to offer this little tip. So I found a really awesome headlamp at Walmart.
Yep.
And it's the Coast.
Yep.
It's 1,000 lumens. Super impressive headlamp.
Yep.
For $40.
Yep.
So for anybody that's on a budget that needs a really good headlamp like Walmart, that Coast headlamp is awesome. It's got a battery pack on the back,
Yep.
so it's rechargeable, but the battery life is awesome. I used it at Pinhoti. It worked great.
Well, that's Coast is the headlamp that I used. I've got 2 Coast headlamps. One that is just a generic Coast headlamp. Then I've got another one that has rechargeable. It's like a 750 lumen, I think. But from Walmart. Both of them from Walmart. And then I use like a Ozark Trail, like a cheap Ozark Trail. And this is my little trick. I got a waist belt, like for your bib. I'll unclip that from the actual headband, put that on your waist lamp. It's cheaper for me than to go and buy an Ultra Spire or them other expensive waist lamps. That was my cheap trick.
There you go. Yeah, I felt bad because Emmanuel had messaged me apparently right before his race, asked me what headlamp I let him borrow at Dirt Circuit, and I just responded to him after his race, like this week. I didn't see it. I'm so bad about Messenger and Instagram. I'm way behind. I'm trying to get caught up. I'm terrible at social media right now. But that's just because it's like permit time and race time, and we're trying to get everything set up. It's a lot of stuff. Way behind and trying to edit these podcasts, so please forgive me. But I had told Emmanuel, he was asking me what headlamp I let him use at Dirt Circuit because it was amazing. I let him use my brand new Black Diamond Storm, and that thing is awesome. Now, this Coast is just as good,
Yeah.
but that Storm was like $80, and the Storm is $40. Now, granted, that Storm is way lighter, and it runs off AAA batteries, so big difference.
Well, one of the Coasts that I have works off AAA plus a rechargeable battery pack. So it's got like a little Coast battery pack that you stick in on like a little USB charger. And then you got AAA batteries that go right in
I
there.
think you can buy an adapter for this Coast to make it run off batteries, but no biggie. I mean, the battery life on that Coast is pretty awesome for $40.
Yeah.
Actually, the battery life is actually longer than my Black Diamond.
Yeah.
But cool. That's good advice. All right. We're on number 9. Right?
Yes.
All right. So my number 9 tip is in a 100-mile race, especially your first one, the last 20 to 25 miles, it's like a whole new race. So if you're doing your very first 100-miler, be prepared for that. You know, if you're not, some elite runner that's signing up for their first 100 miles. Those first 20 to 25 miles are the worst, or those last 20, 25 miles are the worst. They're really hard. It's like you run a whole new race you've never experienced. You're usually sleep deprived. You're tired. You don't feel great. So if you can find a pacer to help you with those last 20, 25 miles, that's great if you like a pacer. But just be prepared for that. And the best advice I can give you is just hang on.
Yeah.
Keep going. If you can finish that race, it will change your entire perspective. It will change your life. It will change how you feel. It will change the things that you think about when you're racing, and sometimes we don't finish our first 100 milers, that's okay.
Yeah.
But just know that probably 90% of the world experience the same thing you're experiencing in those last 20 to 25 miles. They're awful. The best advice I can give you is hold on, hang on. You need to take a few extra minutes at an aid station to get some calories, do it, but keep going. Don't stop.
That's very good. And that was a question we had. They asked what, doing your first 100 miles, what some advice that you would give. And that's, right on. Those last 20 miles is a world of difference from anything else you've done because, you're in a world of hurt. You're sleep deprived. You're trying to figure out how much farther you got.
Dude, I will never forget Warhammer 100. My very first 100 miler took me over 30 hours. My last 20 miles, I literally, your brain just goes crazy. Mm-hmm. I had blisters so bad. Now, granted, I had no idea what I was doing. I was even running with a bladder completely full at one point, and I dumped that out. So, this was a learning experience for me. I had no idea. Back in the day, I was not the guy that looked anything up. I'm still kind of that way, but I'm getting better at it. I'm starting to learn a lot more. Mm-hmm. But those last 10 miles, I'll never forget. I just envisioned, when I finish, I'm going to have to go to the hospital because I'm pretty sure my foot's bleeding. My foot was never bleeding, by the way. It was a blister that popped. So, just FYI, your brain, your mind is going to play so many tricks on you.
Yeah.
Just keep going. If you're not truly, you've not broke a bone and you're not bleeding, bleeding bad. We're all bleeding in hundreds. We're usually clumsy and fall at some point. Yeah. But, you don't need stitches. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. It's going to have its ups. It's going to have its downs. When you cross that finish line, it is an experience like you've never felt.
Yep. The only thing that I would add is just know that you are capable. You can do that. If you're walking, a lot of people want to quit if they're not running. Walk it out. Walk to that finish line. And you know that you are capable of finishing that. I did it during Georgia Jewel. I walked for a long time until I got to that finish line.
Oh, I know. I sat there and waited on you with I had Mary take me to Burger King. And I had a Whopper and French fries.
Oh, guaranteed. It's a struggle when you're trying to get your first either trail 100 or whatever you're trying to do, but you can do it. You just got to keep moving, be consistent. One foot in front of the other. So that goes to a question that we had as well earlier. Where we at here? Number 10. Oh, this kind of goes to the shoe thing earlier. But know the terrain that you're going to be running on. I'm gonna kind of mention a race. The Dirty Surf trail race. People were out there with Nike Alpha Flies trying to do the Dirty South Half Marathon that I just ran. And they were rolling their ankles. They were doing all this kind of stuff. You got to know the terrain that you're running on. If you're running a rocky course where you're climbing mountains, don't wear carbon-plated fast road shoes that have hardly any support in them. Those are made for fast marathons, for fast training sessions. Get you some trail shoes. Test different ones out. I prefer Hoga Speed Goats. I've tried Speedlands. I love Speedland. I don't like the wide toe box. So you got to know what kind of shoes for the type of environment that you're going to be running in. I tried some road shoes at Three Sisters. I thought it was going to be great. I had a patellar tendon thing flare up, halfway through that. Probably wasn't the best shoe choice. But you got to know what kind of shoes to pick and know the terrain that you're going to be running them.
Good choice.
It's my number 10.
That's what happened to me at Ohio. I forgot trail shoes. Valid point. Way to rub it in, Matt.
Hey, it happened to me.
I'd been better off showing a pair of Crocs.
I was leading Three Sisters up into like the last 3 laps, and then I had like that patellar tendon flare up, and I'm gonna blame it on the shoes. I don't know if it was or not, but I'm blaming it on the road shoes because I thought I could run faster in the nylon plated shoes.
Well, the question will be,
it backfired.
The question will always be, was it the shoes or was it your pace?
Nope, it wasn't the pace. Hey, I was good on all that. This sucker flared up, and I tried everything in the world to get it quick because I was running great.
All right, we are on number 10 now.
Yep.
Right? So my number 10 is fueling. Another little tip here. But don't be afraid to mix it up. And one of the things I put on here was like gummy bears, Sour Patch Kids, orange slices, cherry slices. They're all good options when you get tired of gels. When you're running a 100-mile race or any long endurance run, gels can get like to the point where you don't really want to take them. You just want something different.
Yep.
And, gummy bears, they're good. They got plenty of sugar. They can work. Sour Patch Kids, me and Stamen both, at cherry slices. Stamen gave me some cherry slices at Ben Hody. I got hooked. I didn't even know that cherry slices existed. I've ate orange slices before and I love those, but now I do orange and cherry slices. So just be, what's really cool is like, it doesn't take many.
Mm-hmm.
If you weigh out like, it's terrible that I know this, but like orange slices, cherry slices, depending on which ones you're getting, but most of them like 3 cherry slices or 3 orange slices, 130 calories. It's not many. You can control that very easily. So, if you get tired of a gel, try something different. Just make sure that you know the calories that you're taking because you want to keep the carbs consistent so that when you're pushing and you're racing, you can still burn and have that energy to push.
That goes right along with my next one. But I agree. You got to know what kind of, fuel you're going to take. But my number 11 is test what you're going to do in a race. So eat. A lot of backyard ultras that we do, you got to eat the whole time. You're not running a super fast pace. You're usually running slower, so you have more time to eat. But if you don't practice that while you're training and you get out there in a race and you start doing that, it may cause some, bathroom issues, stomach issues. So what I've done recently over the last, couple months is I'll eat a bigger, not like a huge meal, but a bigger meal right before I go do my longer runs, trying to get my stomach and trying to get me used to eating while I run. I think that's going to help. I mean, not just in like backyards, but in 50Ks and stuff where you can actually eat. So that was my number 11, which it goes right along with what you're saying is you got to eat and test it out.
My number 11 is use multiple hydration sources. On your short runs, your recovery runs, stuff like that, easy runs, even some of your short speed runs and stuff that are hard, use different hydration. Mix it up because, my long runs is what I plan like my primary hydration with. So on my long runs, I make sure that I'm using the hydration I'm going to race with because obviously your long run is like you're practicing for the race.
Yeah.
So use what you're going to use. But those short runs, use something different every time. I keep 3 to 4 different hydration packs in my cupboard up there. When you open the kitchen cabinets where me and Mary's at, where there's like hydration everywhere, like you just see all of them across there because we both use different hydration sources and we both use different ones. But the thing about it is like if you're using different ones, just in case something happens at the race and you drink all of your hydration before you make it to your crew or you run out of what you were carrying, you want to be able to take whatever they have, whether it's, Roctane or it's Scratch or it's Hoist or it's something else. You want your stomach to be ready. If you're just taking the same thing every time, that can cause some issues. So on my short runs, I use scratch, I use voice, I use all kinds of things, tailwind, others. I just mix it up because I want to make sure that I'm using a hydration, but also at the same time, I want to make sure my stomach's prepared in case something does go wrong at the race. I'm not worried about it. I know that I can drink whatever's there to get me to the next cruise station. So that is super important.
I completely agree, because that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 6 months. And that is actually my number 12, is exactly what you just said. We try different hydrations in different races that we do. I mean, no race that I've done in the last 6 months has had the exact same hydration. But the Sewanee Slammer had Huma. Firewater had First Form. I think North Dam had Tailwind. So you have to try them all. Like you said, my pantry has got Roctane, Hoist, Gatorlights, Propels, BPN. It's got all that in there. And she's like, what do you want to try today? What do you want to take with you? Because at Sewanee Slammer, I ran out of my Goo Roctane. I had to use the Huma. It was great. Tastes delicious. Coconut something. And then at Firewater, I had it to where I had my Roctane set up halfway through, but I drank all the Roctane that I had previous. So I had to take some First Form. Then I got to my Roctane, and then I get the First Form again. So I never had a stomach issue like that. But that is something that me and you both agreed on, that you have to practice that, because unless you got a crew going with you every aid station, you're going to have to drink what they've got. If they don't have what you have and they've only got water, that'll work for a short time until you need your hydration. So that's something that we practice constantly, and that is my last one is try different hydration mixes, carb mixes throughout all of your training, all the events that you do, because you never know what they're going to have.
Yeah. Nope. Obviously, I agree.
I mean, that's what we do. So
my very last one is volunteer. It's the single most important thing you can do to help this community. Not only will you meet amazing people, but you'll also get to help at least 100 people achieve their goals or try to achieve their goals. And that's something that will either be life-changing to them or it will be life-changing to you. And I can promise you one thing, if you help them in a race get to their goal, they will never forget it. Never. So, if you're going to do anything in 2025, volunteer. You don't have to run a race. Just go help. It's amazing. Any race, you're going to meet some amazing people and you're going to help some amazing people. And people that you don't even realize what they're going through or things they've done. I mean, it could be a person that has never ran a day in their life. They weighed 400 pounds. They've lost weight. And this is their very first race. It could be a half marathon or a 5K. Just go volunteer. And you may change their entire perspective and you may change their entire day. And they will never forget it.
I agree with that.
All right, Matt, since you went ahead and made 14, which I'm just going to do one off the top of my head here, I'm going to let you do a bonus.
My number 13 here.
Just pick one. 13, 14.
We already did 14. 14 was already covered. So my 13th one was caffeine. You got to know how much caffeine you're taking in. A lot of these electrolyte mixes have caffeine in them. You may think that you're getting enough. You may think you're getting too much. But just from a personal experience, I don't like taking caffeine during a race if I'm doing a last minute standing or something until that night. But sometimes while you're running, you may need caffeine earlier than what you think, because I try to push it off. But if you push it off too far, or if you started too early, that may be detrimental to your race in the middle of the day. So you got to know how much caffeine you can take, your tolerance to caffeine, and just when you need it. I mean, I take a lot of caffeine. So if I try to push it off too far, I think that I'm running into cloud. My head goes all like, what are you doing? You're just kind of out there. So keeping a small dose of caffeine in you may help you run better, longer, and faster.
Funny you say that, because I just listened. I think this was part of that podcast. It was like a 3 or 4 hour podcast. It was a long one. But in this podcast, they talked about caffeine. And for anybody that has like a super high caffeine tolerance, you just have to quit taking caffeine for like a week.
Yeah.
And it will reset itself for a race to where when you actually take the caffeine, you're getting the full effect. So if you can go off caffeine for a week or so before the race, it will definitely help you in your performance when you actually go to take caffeine. So there was multiple things they talked about, a couple of things that can actually help reduce the headaches and fatigue from caffeine. So I think it was rhodiola rosea. If you take that can help reduce the headaches and stuff some, but it's not going to take it all the way, but it can help. But, it just takes about a week to reduce a week of no caffeine to actually reset. So that's good advice, though. Caffeine's a good performance enhancer.
It is.
If you use it correctly.
I think that they consider it the number one legal performance enhancer.
And I'll make up my number 13. So I'm just going to say this to people for 2025. This is more of a challenge, especially if you're having like a plateau where you don't feel like you want to train anymore and you're kind of like stuck and you can't find motivation. Sign up for something that scares the hell out of you. That's going to give you some motivation.
Yeah.
If you've never ran a 100-miler and you feel like you're scared to do it, sign up and give yourself plenty of time to train for it. That's important. Don't sign up for a 100-miler next week, but sign up for something that scares the hell out of you and give yourself time to train for it. And you're going to find yourself actually wanting to train, and you may find some joy in there. So, it may completely change your outlook. I really think that's fun to sign up for something that puts you out of your comfort zone. And honestly, health-wise, it's truly good for you to do stuff that you're not comfortable with. So that's my bonus.
I hear Ball State's got some openings. Ball State.
Go for it. All right, Matt, let's hear these questions.
Oh, we got a few of them here. First, we got to make it through Brian's rock and roll. He's already dropped off.
Oh, good.
So the first question is the best gear for running at night. I'm going to say a headlamp will be the number one option. And then some type of waist lamp. I know Marcia has the world's brightest waist lamp that she has. And you can see everything with it. So a waist lamp. Those two things seem pretty great to me.
Well, it really depends on what your goal is too. So like if you're going to be a long 100-miler, I would say obviously, a headlamp, but also having a backup headlamp, having batteries, having a battery pack to charge your watch if needed, and to charge your headlamp if it doesn't run off of extra batteries. And then the other piece to that too is if you're going to be out there a long time and it's cool weather like it is right now, a change of clothes is life-changing.
Oh, you got to have those.
It's if you're soaking wet from the day, because it can be hot during the day and get cold at night. If you're going to be at the middle or the back of the backer, like definitely have a change of clothes because you're going to get cold. Have gloves, have a pair of hot hands ready if you need them. That can be a difference. Your hands freezing can make it miserable, especially if you have, circulation issues to begin with. And then, always have like a drop bag. My plan always, like I would say gear wise, when I'm by myself and I don't have a crew, I always plan a drop bag. And this is really the only drop bag I take. I try to plan it at night, around, 10, 11, or 12 o'clock at night, so that I can change clothes. I put a whole change of clothes in there with hot hands, with gloves, with a beanie, and I get out whatever I need at that point. And I change clothes, I change socks, I change everything. I put everything dry on if I know it's going to be a long, hard 100-miler, because I don't want to get cold.
I agree. Definitely do not want to get cold. I agree with all that. The next one is a statement, and they said that they love us and that they are thankful for all that we do and for keeping us motivated in each race. So,
oh, that's sweet.
That was. And then the next question is, if you had to pick the single most important thing in your training, what would it be?
running. I mean, consistency. That is the single most important thing. Like, it is running. And that's the thing is, like, if you're going to be in this for the long term and you're going to try to do these long distances, you have to run. You can go out here and run a 5K and have fun and run slow and finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Running 100 miles, running 50 miles is going to be absolutely miserable if you don't run.
I agree. That's what mine was going to be, consistency. I mean, if you sign up for something, you got to put some consistent training in there.
Yeah, it's training, period. Like, that's the thing. Like, and you got to do it safely. You start out slow and you build your miles up slowly. If you jump into 0 to 50 miles, you're probably going to get hurt.
If you don't get hurt, you're going to be suffering. All right. These are some pretty in-depth questions from our running team. What lessons or takeaways did you learn in 2024, and how are you carrying them into 2020?
First,
go ahead. I mean, these are pretty deep.
So obviously everybody at this point listening to this podcast knows that I messed my foot up really bad at Pinhoti. And Pinhoti was supposed to be my fun run. I was never racing Pinhoti. I was racing Yeti because I had not ran on a trail almost all year, period. So when Yeti got canceled because of the hurricane, I quickly switched over to Pinhoti. And, that's the thing that got me, was that I hadn't ran on trails much at all. And, it was kind of just a freak accident where I rolled my ankle. But I think, back to what I said in the very beginning, I think is a lesson that I've learned. And that is that if I'm going to plan on running trails, even though I'm trying to run for speed on certain, road or asphalt or, gravel conditions, I'm going to try to mix in some really easy or recovery runs on trail every month, a couple of months, just so that I don't lose that, ankle dexterity and all that, with being able to run on a trail, because I really focused hard on the speed, which I was really getting good at and improving on. But I just don't think, this is the same ankle I hurt at No Business. So I don't know if it's an injury that I started at No Business and just done it again exactly a year later. But I don't think running on the trail helped me very much. So, you're training on the terrain for your race, but that's why I say on those easy or recovery runs, every now and then it's okay. Mix it up with a trail on occasion if you're going to go back to trail running, or you have some trail runs you're going to do.
I'd agree with that. That's kind of what my takeaway is, that at the beginning of the year, I was doing just road for the marathons and I wasn't enjoying it. So in 2025, it's going to be more enjoying my runs and keeping that variety that I like. Road one day, trail the next, climbing a mountain, the next day. So it's the variety and the training that makes it more fun and enjoyable. Even though during those runs, you're putting in a training session, so it's hard, or you're doing your recovery run, but it's the variety and the fun in that, instead of just doing nothing but one thing the whole time.
Yeah, and I think I think doing some things different, like me switching over to road, was also a learning experience that I took a lot away from, because that forced me to run that fast, to learn how to fuel better. Yeah. And I took a lot away from that. Like in Yeti 100, I was taking well over 100 carbs per hour and 100 grams of carbs per hour. And I'd never tried that before, but that's how I was training. And it had, I was able to run that pace. You learn so many things just doing something out of your wheelhouse. So that's another thing that I say is, like, do something that scares the hell out of you. If you learn anything, like, learn that. Like, try to do something different next year, and you may learn so much from it.
The next question is, what top piece of gear have you found yourself going to this year?
Piece of gear. I will say this for the most part. I spent a lot of time this year trying to figure out shoes. So I finally got it dialed in some. I feel like I'm trying to get there, but those New Balances that I've been running on the trail in are awesome. And my absolute favorite shoe now for the road is the New Balance Elites. So I absolutely love those. I ran those in the Yeti 50 and had no problems whatsoever. So that's one thing. The other is my Coros heart monitor. That armband is absolutely amazing. I will tell you all, if you're not using a external heart rate monitor, like a armband or a chest band or something, your readings on your watch are not accurate. So they're not helping you. You need to be using an external heart monitor or your stuff's just going to be all over the place.
My number one would be my socks. I have used these exact socks in every race since 2023. And they did amazing, except for Vol State. But that's Vol State. I mean, you can't take nothing from that. But every other race that I've done since then, there's no blisters. So it's Salty Britches and the Zenza socks, the 3D dotted printed socks. I don't get blisters with them. They fit great. They've got a little Achilles, little pad on the back, so your shoes hit it. It doesn't rub it. That's my top gear. I do not run a race without them.
Well, I'm going to have to give honorable mention to the H drop. That thing has been a game changer as well. So, it was the shoes, then the armband, and then later in the year, I got this H drop. So between all three of those, it's been like building. The armband truly helped me. The Coros armband helped me with dialing in my pace because I don't have heart rate drift with that thing. It's just accurate. It stays on. There's no waiting. And then the H drop on top of that, I know I'm wearing I got armbands on both biceps at this point when I'm running, but the H drop goes on one and the heart band goes on the other. But the H drop, I mean, it's so cool just to see in real time. Like it literally has a dial, like a graph as you're running, and it shows what you're sweating. And if you start sweating less sodium, like you can see it, and it means that you're becoming dehydrated. So the H drop is pretty amazing in that way. Now, I will say the H drop has had a few issues where I've done a run and it shows I sweated none and it just lost its mind. But that's happened twice in 6 months. So I'm not or 4 months, however long I've had this thing. I'm not going to get upset about that because they were short runs. But in every long run, it's been great.
Well, speaking of that, that's on my Christmas list.
I didn't know that. I did not know that. Maybe you should put the snowman hat back on.
Oh, man. The next question is, any last-minute gift ideas for a runner in your life who didn't get what they might have wanted?
I would start with a heart rate monitor. That's a good one. An H drop is a good one.
I got one. It's a H drop. It's on my Christmas list.
Another one for a trail runner is gaiters. That's always cool to have for your feet. Some people don't run in them, but they are pretty awesome.
I haven't ran in them since 2020. I don't think I've ran in gaiters.
Salty Britches is always a good one.
I would say just buy a whole box of Salty Britches.
But I will say, if they don't have a nice heart rate band or don't have an external heart rate monitor, that's a really good gift. Another one is a really nice headlamp. You can always use a headlamp as a runner.
Well, even our race for the Cherokee, they have to have a headlamp, even if they make it, done before the nighttime. So, yeah, that'd be great.
Or if you want to spend a lot of money, you can get them an Insta360 camera. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's good. Or I put on my list, Ultra Sign Up gift card.
Yep, there you go.
So that is on my Christmas list as well. So I can do some more races for 2025. You can't go wrong with that.
No.
And this is for you, an update on your ankle injury from Pinhoti. Probably already covered it, but they want to know.
Well, it's still swollen, so we're working through that. I can run, like I said, 45 minutes. I'm having to scrape it every day, trying to reduce the inflammation because the spot around my ankle is still extremely swollen. I'm still doing a TENS unit 2 to 3 times a day. I've stopped the ice and the heat. I don't do that anymore, but I'm doing stretches and workouts and trying to work it out some and trying to work on mobility. It is definitely improving, but it's still twice the size of my other ankle.
But it's improving. The next one is, if you could only fuel from 3 different food sources in your next ultra, what 3 food choices would it be?
I can go with 2. I would go with, I'll give an alternate. I could fuel with Goo, Roctane, or Tailwind, the hydration mix, and then I could run the entire rest of the race on Morton gels.
My number 1 would be Roctane or a hydration mix, quesadillas, and burgers. Those 3 right there. If I'm doing like a long race where I can just eat a little bit of the burger at a time, those 3 right there, great. No problems.
Well, I tested this theory at Yeti 50. The only thing I ate and drank the whole day was Goo Roctane and Morton gels.
I can do Morton gels for about a marathon. I can do them like if I did a 24-hour, I could do them periodically. But
I was even taking their large ones 2 an hour.
I'll take real food over gels about any day.
But if we were going to throw a third one in there, I would have to have some salt tabs.
Well, now that is a good one. But this is food sources.
That's a food for me. I have to have salt.
Nutrition sources, salt tab would be my number 1. But yeah, salt tab. I can't run a race without salt tab. If you had to listen to one song on repeat for your next ultra, and only one song, what would it be?
I don't know what one song it would be, but I can tell you what artist it would be because Spotify told me. Apparently, I listened to a lot of One Republic. I'm guessing it must be from like the Top Gun soundtrack. I have no idea, but
I don't know what all they sing.
But yeah, I have a lot of. So when my Spotify was going, it told me all kinds of incredible things. One of them was that my longest listening day, which was funny, me and Mary had the same day. So I don't even know what we were doing. We've not figured it out yet, but we listened to Spotify for 16 hours. And my number one band for the whole year, which apparently it was hours and hours and hours, was One Republic.
Wow.
I guess I could look at Spotify real quick and find out what my number 1 song was while you answer.
If I could listen to just one song over and over and over again for a 50K, I love Smokey and the Bandit. That was one of my favorite movies growing up, and I could watch that movie anytime it's on. So I'm going to say Eastbound and Down.
Eastbound?
And I could sing that song. Give me a 50K easy. I could do that song over and over and over again. That's an old song too.
I don't even know where my rap's at for me to even look, so it's too late.
That's my song. The next one is your most awkward running situation in 2024.
Well, if we were talking 2023, I could definitely give that one. I don't know if I have an awkward situation.
I don't know if I have one either.
I'm thinking.
I don't know. Most of our races went pretty great. I mean, every race I ran, nobody did nothing crazy.
I don't think I have anything in 2024. Now, 2023, I had one.
You had a couple in 2023.
I did. I won't get into those because I'll embarrass Mary too.
That's more than I was thinking then. But yeah, I don't really know any most awkward running situation. And then we got the most impressive running performance in 2024.
Who?
The most impressive running performance in 2024.
Just anybody?
I don't know. It didn't give like a specific. It just said most impressive. I mean, I could name a few from our team that was pretty dang impressive.
So if I was going to say overall, I'll give it to Tara Dower.
That's pretty great.
What she did is pretty amazing.
Definitely amazing.
If I was picking from the ECA team, man,
it's hard.
It would be hard to say, but it would have to be. It'd be really close between Ron Wireman and Chris Stamen.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Stamen set the Tennessee state running record. He ran 100 miles in just right over 14 hours. And then Ron Wireman running, I think, over 300 miles at Biggs was another impressive one. But we had a lot of good performances from the East Coast team. I mean, Brandon Johnson also set the 12-hour state record, 70-plus miles at 12 hours. So the team has done really well this year, and there's been a lot of PRs that we won't even jump into on here. But the team has, just went above and beyond, and they're amazing. And, love you guys. But I guess top performances from the team, I would say Stamen and Ron, and then runner-up would be Brandon.
Great. I completely agree with that.
And then overall, for all of running, I I'd have to say Tara Dower.
I mean, she went out there and she did something that was incredible, and now she's getting rewarded for it, which she deserves.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Which is awesome. The next question is, what was your favorite running moment this past year? Not necessarily running performance, but a person that you saw went above and beyond for a group or for someone. That was hard.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Sam Vermillion. I got to say, like, for all the things that, we've done this year and just the events we put on, she by far has just stepped up and volunteered. She's been there, day and night sometimes. She ran the Cherokee aid station. She was at Port Frenzy cooking all day. Same at Dirt Circuit. Her and Brian showed up and just worked all day. I mean, that is stuff that people don't truly see when they're running, but they sure feel it, and they don't understand, like, how much work went into that. But when you're getting fed and you have warm food and you're coming around every lap and stuff's on that table, I mean, that is these volunteers. And Sam, I mean, you were just absolutely incredible this year, and we can't thank you enough for everything that you have done. And, there's a couple other people that I can say, like, that didn't even know, really weren't involved in ultras, that stepped up and volunteered. And I got to say, that's amazing. Like, Sam Monig, she had no idea how to even crew the Cherokee, and she's the one that kept Brian Vermillion going and got him back out there to win. And, that's the stuff that, I mean, when that was my number 12, was like, volunteer. Guys, when you volunteer, you never know how you're going to change someone's day or how you're going to change their life. So remember that. If there's anything you're going to do, even if you're not a runner, volunteer. You can make such a difference.
Yeah. I think one of my most favorite moments this past year, it was a runner, which was Heather. I mean, I know that her time and struggle is not a favorite part of what she had to go through, but it was the determination and the grit that she had after that, where a lot of people could have just gave up. A lot of people could have said, well, this, I pushed this hard and now I'm done. Like, I'm going to sit back and try to be safe, or, not going to do this kind of stuff no more. But she didn't do that. She went in the complete opposite direction of, like, what we would have done. This happened to me. I'm going to show this that I can do that. And then, when a short time after that, she went out and did a 3-hour race. And now she's looking at a 100-miler for 2025. It's not something that I would wish on anybody, what she had to go through, but I would wish everybody had the determination, grit, and strength that she had after that. Because that shows, the character, what you're willing to put yourself through to show that just because something happened to you, I'm not going to let it define me. I'm going to push myself greater than what can happen. So I think Heather's would be one of my favorite things, just to see, like, when I heard about it, it was awful. It was, somebody personally, and you're like, you don't want something to happen, but, like, the after effect is of her doing that. It's very inspirational.
I agree that the fact that, this goes back to volunteering, but she came to Cherokee, and was still on, still trying to walk, and was handing out medals. Like, she volunteered, Van volunteered, and man, I'm telling you what, she's just absolutely amazing. We had multiple things like that, though. Heather's story is just truly amazing, and where she's at, she's one of the toughest people that I know, and she's so kind and graceful when she's helping, but she's tough as nails, and she's determined, and she will run 100 miles. But we also, even to that, like, we should mention Matt Cook. I mean, everything he went through, learning how to walk again as well. And he comes out and wins the Cherokee 70K. I mean, watching him run through the finish line and just start crying and just breaking down.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Heather had this conversation. I think we had the conversation on the podcast, didn't we? But she was talking about I don't remember if it was a podcast or just a separate conversation, but she was talking about how much that inspired her.
Oh, yeah, she talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, she's like,
and then she's even made a post about it.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing. It's like and then you hear Cassandra's story.
Yeah.
There's just so many people that, if they have the willpower to do this after everything they've overcame, what's your excuse?
Yeah. I mean, Cassandra's, that podcast, we've talked about it, but listening to that story, like, I don't know if they could see it on the video, but I mean, I was tearing up. Like, it was hard to hold, like, my reaction together because I didn't know who she was. After she was going to come on the podcast, I kind of looked up her story, but it's different hearing it from her and then reading it in a news article. It's when you hear somebody explain what happened, it's just like, I mean, how could you not be touched by that? And it was hard to even hold it together. So, Cassandra's it was probably the most difficult podcast I've had to listen to because I was like, I just want to cry with you because it was hard.
Yeah, there was two moments. One was Cassandra's listening to that when they were talking about, saying their goodbye.
Yeah.
And the other one was listening to Heather when she was laying there listening to them tell her son and her husband that she may not make it. And she was hearing all of that.
Yep.
Those two stories, it's just like, that's hard.
I mean, now you get to see these people in person and hang out with them. And it's, I mean, I don't know if it means a lot. Like just seeing these people do the stuff they got to do. I mean, they come out and run races, run events, put the training miles in, and they went through all that. I mean, those were some very, some of the favorite moments of 2024 that we get to learn about.
Yeah, and my last one, I got to give honorable mention to Emmanuel trying to break dance at the Dirt Circus. We caught that, and Nick caught that on camera, so that one will never be forgotten.
Man, I should record. If he could record videos as he's taking photos, Nick, we need to work on that. Record and take photos at the same time.
Yeah, trying to break dance right at the end of his 100-mile race.
The next one is one training tip to take into the new year.
Goodness, we just gave 12.
Well, they want one more. I'm going to say climb mountains.
If I'm going to give you one tip for the whole year, then I'm going to pull from my list. The number one is be consistent in your training. If there's one tip, plan your schedule and run. And if it's 45 minutes a day and that's all you can do, run easy 4 of those days a week and try to get one speed or hill workout in a week or something. But, there's nothing that you can do that's going to help you more than be consistent in your volume.
I would add to that, be consistent and climb Mount LeConte one time a month.
Sounds like Brian Vermillion's answer.
I'm going to say this, just climb Mount LeConte one time a month.
Is that your goal next year?
No, mine's climb Watcheesy one time a month.
Okay.
So it's a little bit closer than driving to Mount LeConte. Climb it one time a month. Watcheesy would be good one time a month. The next question is, would you rather run a race with or without a pacer?
Depends on the race. So, like Yeti 50, no, I didn't need a pacer. Yeti 100, maybe. And there's trail 100 milers. I don't mind having a pacer the last 15 or 20 miles. You've paced me for the last 15 or 20 miles.
Well, at that point,
not want a pacer that's going to talk to me a lot because I just want to run.
At that point, when you're in the last 15 or 20 miles, for me, I want somebody to talk. I'll think the perfect pacer for me be David Kyle. Get him out there and just let him talk. Because he would take your mind off of any kind of pain you got. He'd tell you a story about, stuff you never heard of before. And he would I'd be like, man, this is right here the good stuff because I don't have to worry about running. I'm just listening to him talk. But you're already, last 15 or 20 miles, you're unless you're just crushing it, you're struggling or your pace is slowing down. So I would say with the pacer for those, because I like having somebody there. But if you fast 100 like we did at the track, you don't get a pacer for that. But you're out there in the middle of nowhere for 20 miles. Pacer's pretty nice to talk to.
Yeah. I would say if it's a long race, for sure, pacers are nice. I'm still not sure how much I would talk.
No, you didn't talk when I paced, Jess. No, you didn't talk much at all.
Yeah.
For those last 18 miles, I'm just trying to tell you how many miles we were at, what our pace was, and trying to get you done and trying to get you to climb Mount Baker a little faster. But no, there wasn't much talking. But like, I don't think I would talk much either, but it's just the listening.
Yeah, we were also running some of those at like a 7 or 8.
We were running pretty fast, trying to pass people and hammer down, but
until I failed.
I mean, about 5 times.
But yeah, I'm with you. Like, if it's a long race, I want a pacer. I'm just, we're all different.
Yeah.
I don't want someone that's going to talk to me every second.
Yeah.
When me and you paced, you kind of knew that. We ran and
I mean, there wasn't much talk.
We talked maybe once or twice an hour,
It was just like a little bit of update. Like, hey, we're at this mile. If you want to finish in this time, we got to move a little faster.
We talked plenty when we finished, and then I fell asleep beside the porta potties.
And then I went to the aquarium in Chattanooga.
And then I woke up beside the porta potty, and that was off.
I mean, you got to sleep where you got to sleep.
It was noon when I woke up.
But it was hot and smelly. Let's see what else we got.
Questions?
Well, that's all of that section. Let's try the last section here, and we might have finished them all.
We're at almost 2 hours, Matt, so you're keeping yourself awake.
Well, I told you what was going to happen when you did this.
I figured it's going to be like a 45-minute podcast.
That ain't going to work. That is all the questions we had. We have answered everything. We have went over our 12 tips, tricks, and whatever else you want to call them.
Well, let's end with this, Matt. And if you want to add anything to this, I typed this up, 20 minutes for the podcast. You saw me in there.
That's what we got to do. I mean, we're hardworking people.
That's right. So since it's Christmas special, we'll end with this. And if Matt wants to add anything to it, then he is welcome to. So this Christmas, let's remember what all we've accomplished this year. There's been some bad things that have happened in races, etc. But just remember, you're pushing yourself, you're facing challenges and finding strength to keep going. And that's really hard, to find the strength to keep going, even when things aren't really going your way. That teaches us a lot in life. And just like an ultra, life throws us curveballs. It's those moments when we're struggling, those battles. That's what helps us grow. It's not just about being the best compared to anyone else. You're always just trying to be the best yourself. Be the best version of you every single day. So this holiday, let's find joy in the journey and the simple moments of connection and gratitude. If we're going to do anything, let's be kind to one another, remembering that everyone carries their own struggles, seen and unseen. A smile, a helping hand, a listening ear. These small acts of kindness can make all the difference to someone struggling during the holidays. Most importantly, let's cherish the people we share this journey with, family, friends, and this community. They're the ones who makes life's adventures truly special. So from the ECA family to yours, have a Christmas filled with joy, resilience, and the unwavering spirit for the Christmas holiday.
That's good.
Thanks, sir.
The only thing that I would add is that, thanks to everybody who has made ECA, the events, the group runs, the training runs, all of that. Thanks to everybody who came out and joined our family. I mean, 'cause that's what we want to do, is like, we want to make this a family where we all get to suffer together, prosper together, cross that finish line together. So just, thank you guys.
Yep. And we'll say at the very end, Merry
Christmas.
Thank you all so much. And thank you so much for making us, we got our Spotify unwrapped the other day, and we just want to say thank you. We were top 5% of video podcasts on Spotify. So we never expected this podcast to take off like this.
No.
We just truly want to say thank you for listening to us ramble on and listening to our bad advice and our good advice and our good questions and our bad questions. But we love you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.